Come have a seat, my brother. We've got much to discuss. What could it be? What could it be? This right here. Trigun.
I don't know, maybe the marvelous display you got right here.
Yeah. I've got quite a collection over time. I remember watching Trigun on Netflix, and obviously Netflix does what it does and just removes the good stuff from the platform, so...
Yeah, I remembered that.
Fortunately, I managed to get myself a physical copy of the Trigun series, as well as Trigun Badlands Rumble, the movie that was basically a love letter to the 90s series that was made back in, I think it was 2013 or something like that. And then I also got all this stuff as well as I got the mangas. I got Gungrave
for the PS2.
As well as these manga books, and recently Trigun Stampede. Maybe God will know the specific order of what I got these in there. But needless to say, I think it's safe to say I like the series and I like this creator, Yasuhiro Naito. He's got quite the style, and he certainly made an impression. I mean, you won't hear his name being talked about along the likes of like Hayao Miyazaki or Shinichiro Watanabe. In fact, I can honestly say, as much as I love Trigun, the Cowboy Bebop series, at least, as an anime show, is probably better than this 90s series in regards to its overall quality. But that's not to negate this series, because this is an excellent series which we're about to talk about. And you said you've been rewatching it lately, and it still holds up really well.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's definitely one of the sort of underrated sort of animes and that of that year in particular, and that.
The 90s, yes. The time when I was born.
Yeah, actually, I think it was 1998. Yeah, that was the year that.
That was the year when I was born. Yes.
Yeah. You just happened to be born in the year in that you just happened to be born in the same year in that of the animes that pretty much sort of shaped your life.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop and a Trigun. That was also the same year that Disney's Mulan came out in the cinemas. Just thought I'd state that there. So, what is it about the Trigun series that stands out particularly? Well, if you're not familiar with the manga source material or indeed the 90s series, the premise of the Trigun show is that it's set long distance into the future. Basically, think Frank Herbert's Dune, but more Western and a bit goofier.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting that you bring up Dune in that, because there is some sort of some sort of resemblance to Dune in that, in terms of like the creatures that inhabit the planet
the big worms, yes. It does have those big worms, as well as, of course, being set in a big desert planet and fight for water and things like that. I mean, there isn't really spice or anything like that. But yeah, you can spot some similarities. I mean, how much Night Girl was influenced by Frank Herbert's Dune, it's up for debate, but from what I understand, he was more influenced by the whole mythos surrounding the wagon journey to the west, as it were. People settling in and the conflict that would reside thererein, at least in regards to the influence of the story. So basically, it's set in a sci-fi setting where humanity has basically escaped Earth, and they've managed to find a safe haven, if you will, in this desert planet that is referred to as Gunsmoke. And the reason why they got there, I mean, what's interesting about this specific adaptation of Trigun, at least, is that a lot of what actually happened is left up to a bit of a mystery and is revealed over time, but what you need to know is that humanity migrated to the planet Gunsmoke, and there's crime has increased, and the most wanted criminal is this guy, Vash the Stampede. Except he wouldn't even hurt a fly. He has never killed anybody, he is an active pacifist, and he's advocated for love and peace. The only reason why he gets the reputation that he does is that trouble just seems to follow him wherever he goes. And we follow Vash the Stampede from the perspective of these two reporter girls.
Yeah.
No, they had another profession. It was some kind of. They're basically reporters, right?
Well, they're like part of an insurance
insurance company. That's what it was.
Because of course, wherever Bash goes, property damage also seems to follow his way in that.
That's it. That's right. They were insurance girls. That's right. Yes, insurance women. Yes. So two insurance women, fairly petite woman by the name of Merle, and this big lass by the name of Millie. Millie Thompson, that's the one. They're trying to look for Vash the Stampede, and Vash the Stampede has this fearsome reputation, but they come across this complete utter clown of a man, voiced by the legend himself, that is Johnny Yon Bosch. And over the series of events in the first few episodes, they'll come to realize, oh, you've got to be kidding me, that clown is Vash the Stampede. But they basically follow him in his antics and his attempts to stop crime and prevent as many people from getting killed as possible whilst protecting civilians. He's kind of like MacGyver in that regard. And so they basically go somewhat of a journey with him. And they come across a variety of characters, some good, some bad, most notably Wolfwood the priest.
Yeah.
And that weird cat that keeps making cameos throughout the series.
Yeah. I actually had a sort of thought, and I don't know if it's an established theory or not, but I do sort of wonder if there's kind of a lore to sort of the reason why the cat appears in that, because like you notice that the cat in particular in that is like a black cat in that, and there's like the whole mythos of black cats bringing bad luck. And of course, and of course, you know, in every episode wherever they go in that, you know, trouble seems to come their way in that.
Right. So, I never thought of it that way. Maybe the black cat's maybe some kind of mystical symbol of a bad omen or something like that. Maybe that could explain it quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's established here or not, but it feels like it should be.
I never thought of it that way. I just thought, oh look, there's a goofy looking black cat. But maybe it's a bit deeper than I realized. So basically, the way that the series is set up is that it's an episodic series, and it's about the same length as Cowboy Bebop in that there's about 25 or so episodes. It's an easy watch, depending on how much time you're willing to give to it. I mean, you could watch it day by day or just week by week, however you want to do it.
Well, I mean, obviously when you get deeper into like the series and that, there's obviously a lot. Obviously, like the story starts to become a bit more sort of like focused on certain key elements and that. But yeah, it's easy to get yourself into in that. Like a lot of animes really in that you know that they start off relatively simple in that, but get complex as time goes on in that.
I've heard it said by Doug Walker, the nostalgia critic, that the best epics are the ones that, as you say, start off simple but get more complex as they go along, just based on that premise. Yes.
Yeah, like I'd say in general that the tone in that is definitely a lot more cheered than Cowboy Bebop in that.
Yeah.
But it does have its like it does have like serious undertones in that once you sink your teeth into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, much like the main guy himself.
Absolutely, but much like the main guy. It's interesting how main characters pretty much establish a given tone of a certain work. With Vash the Stampede, I mean, you get quite the first impression of him. He seems like the typical Clint Eastwood kind of guy. He's sitting there in the pub, and then all of a sudden you just see these bad guys just bombarding the pub with all bullets, just completely deleting the entire place with bullet after bullet, just ripping through the entire place, people running for their lives. But he's still standing and he's still alive, so you get the impression, okay, he's a survivor, okay, he stands up, he gets his signature gun out, only to realize, oh snap, no bullets. Makes a run for it.
Yeah.
And that's just a wee taster of what's yet to come. The rest of the episode is him trying to take out these bad guys. One of them has got a very creative sort of boomerang mechanics. I think some of these criminals take a hint from Mad Max or something with how much their character design goes quite wild at times. We get introduced to the insurance girls, Merle and Millie, that they're armed, they're going to report what they can, and they're looking for Vash the Stampede, particularly due to his dangerous reputation. Vash the Stampede appears as a complete clown of a person. No one takes him seriously, and yet somehow he manages to find a way to work a way around, whilst he tries to paint it as bad luck, but as the series goes along, you begin to realize actually he knows what he's doing. Like there's later episodes where it's implied, okay, he's probably pretending to be a goofball. I mean, you get hints that, okay, he's probably still a goofball, but you get the hints that he's pretending to be one most of the time. Like, for example, there's a scene where he's jamming to some music, so it would seem.
Yeah.
And then people try to shoot him, but he brilliantly dodges it.
Yeah.
So to the outside observer, it would seem that this idiot is dodging the bullets by blind luck. But if you know better, you probably think, he knows what he's doing. He's only putting on a show.
Yeah. Like, yeah, like I think the character in general that is kind of like, I'm sure there's a definition of it. Like basically, he's sort of a definition of someone who you can easily underestimate in that.
That's right.
Someone who's underestimate him as someone who couldn't possibly in any way be a shaper of a threat in that. But at the same time, that when the action goes down in that, he pretty much kicks it into high gear in that and really shows what he's capable of.
Aye, maybe if you call it goofball genius or something. He's like very much like Captain Jack Sparrow and other characters like that. The character who feels completely incapable at first, but when the going gets tough, they're actually a few steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
And willing to put up a fight with their wits. So with Vash the Stampede, he seems like a complete idiot at first, but and yet time and time again he's able to effortlessly dodge bullets, albeit with some scars that are revealed later on. And he's a master marksman, able to hit any target he can, bullseyes, except he doesn't use that for clear headshots. Usually he'll just like shoot people's shoulders, limbs, or whatever weak parts of machinery he can, just to keep people out of danger and to stabilize the bad guys. He's quite quick, he's got good reflexes, so there'll be another scene where he'll just pick up a can and just go, and just toss it and perfectly knock a guy out. He puts on a facade of being this nice guy who could never do anything wrong. Plus, he has an interesting obsession with donuts. That seems to be his quirk throughout the show. But later on, as the show goes on, you realize that he's actually carrying a lot of weight, given his past and the fact that he's lived for a long, long time.
And not to mention the literal physical scars on his body.
Yeah,
It actually kind of, I remember like when I was sort of rewatching the show and that, and particularly like a scene in that where after he sort of saves the town in that from like a gigantic guy in that with a huge mechanized nice hand in that long story short in that, sort of the proprietors and that of the town and that like tried to get hire certain type of woman that to Bash and that and take him to his bedroom and that, but then the said woman that realised you know, he's passed out in that, so like they just chuck him in his room and that, but it's actually pretending in that to be passed out in that, and he says to himself, you know, I'm like sort of regretting it a little bit in that, and he says maybe so on that, and at first I remember watching that thing and like, why would he sort of be would have said that and that, and only then after watching a few episodes in that, when we actually see his body scars in that, and you just see how badly damaged in that his body is in that, from you know from actually taking hits in that, because again, like, this is a guy who refuses to like kill anyone in that, and as a result in that, he has taken quite a few hits in that taken so much from his body in that which made me realize, so that's why he's not keen on people seeing his body.
Right. And it's interesting how Vash himself goes back from being absolutely serious to being a complete goofball. Like, the moment you find out he's got all these body scars, the insurance girl's fate, and Vash goes into chibi mode and acts like some shower girl caught naked.
Yeah.
Then of course he explains why he kept taking the hits and stuff like that. Another scene where he dodges a bullet right in front of people, but he seems to panic as the guy tries to shoot him again and again, only for Vash to just appear right in front of him.
Yeah.
There's other scenes like that. There's basically all kinds of instances throughout the show, very much like that. He eventually warms up to the insurance girls. Obviously, Merle's got the sound mind of making sure Vash is accountable, but Millie Thompson is the biggest sweetheart in the entire show.
Like I'd say like out of all the characters in that, like Millie Thompson is my low-key favourite one.
Yeah.
She's just so gullible, but yet so lovable at the same time. I love the part in that when like she sort of talks about how when like Vash disappears in that, and she says that she remembered to put a tracker on him and that, and it turns out that Vash ended up putting it on, just so happened to be one of the so-called black cats that were mentioned in the show and that. And she just says, Vash isn't just transformed into a cat.
Oh, Millie. There's another scene where Vash has a ridiculous attempt at hiding his name, only for Millie to say, why are you hiding your name, Vash the Stampede?
And another one, my absolute favourite in that is in sort of episode 2, I believe, where he's trying to sort of catch a glimpse in that of the girl that he's trying to protect in that, in the shower and that, and he ends up sort of losing his foot in that, and ends up being stuck in that, like dangling from the windowsill and that, and then Millie comes in that, and he just spots Bash in that, and there's just like an awkward silence for a moment in that, and she just says hello, and he goes hello.
Do we mention he's also a womanizer? So they're going along, and trouble seems to follow them. There's bad guys, but there's also good guys. There's or people who recognize Vash from way back when, and other kids that Vash wants to protect. Although another prominent character that enters in is, of course, Wolfwood, the priest, or Nicholas D. Wolfwood, and his middle name is ridiculously long, by the way, bit of trivia. But people usually refer to him as just Wolfwood.
Yeah.
So he appears not until like a few episodes in, as kind of a foil to Vash. he acknowledges that there's all these people hunting down Vash due to his ridiculously high bounty. He's got the highest bounty on the planet, basically. So then in comes Wolfwood, this priest character. Nicholas D. Wolfwood, his middle name is ridiculously long, fun bit of trivia. And he's... there's all kinds of people hunting down Vash because Vash is the biggest bounty on the planet. But Wolfwood doesn't immediately try to hunt down Vash like everybody else does. In fact, he's got quite a heart of gold, especially when it comes to...
children.
Yeah. Especially when you find out more about the details about his past, about this orphanage and other stuff like that. So, being a man of the cloth, he's quite keen on the people's spiritual state of being, even carries his own mini confessional booth.
Yeah. As well as the elephant and Remenda, his giant cross that he carries with him wherever he goes.
His signature weapon. His cross is not only the kind of cross that you'd see people in pilgrimages do, but it's all covered in blankets and belts. When he uncovers it, it's this gigantic multi-use gun thing, which is such a brilliantly creative design. It's you can use it as a shield, you can use it to like a big bazooka thing or a machine gun, or use it to store all kinds of little pistols on non-stop. It's multifaceted.
Yeah, and it's kind of his profession as a priest in that is actually sort of in some ways contradictory in that to what his actual actions in the show in that.
That's exactly right.
Because like in some ways in that when it compared to Bash and Wolf and that, there's argument to be said that Bash, is has more sort of like priestly kind of like attributes in that than compared to Wolfwood, who's a self-proclaimed priest himself.
Yeah, this is where the play of character contrast comes in, and the people have said when analysing the series that one of the series' greatest strengths is its use of character contrast to establish these different characters.
And because actually the most recent episodes that I've been rewatching that just so happens to be the last episode in that has Wolfwood in them, which spoiler alerts, he dies.
Yeah, major spoiler alert from the man. Here's some trivia. When Wolfwood died, the author Nightow said that a part of him died with him. Yeah. Oh man.
But it's actually quite actually found his death in that actually quite well, I mean obviously it's tragic, but it's actually more so than originally thought would be in that, because like I always had the impression that he sort of died in that as he sort of died the way, well not the way that he wanted to in that, but like he sort of died like he didn't seem to die as gracefully as a boy was in that, because like it was actually a shame really in that, because like you figured that like when most characters die in that they say that that they're at peace in that with what they've done in that, and they're happy enough to
pass
on to
yeah.
But the fact that one of the last things I was talking about is that he's got I wish I was still with them and that I don't want to die right now and that, and
yeah,
it just actually feels very kind of tragic in that that he that was the last words he said in that before he passed on, because you'd like to think that someone who would make you'd like to think that when you make sacrifices like that, that you'd feel at peace in that when before you sort of pass on in that.
Yeah,
but it's quite tragic that he felt that the fact that he didn't want to die in that. He wanted to be with Vash. He wanted to be with Millie in that, and it's just a shame that that he did pass away like that.
You have to. What makes it more tragic is that only then was he starting to practice Vash's viewpoint of love and peace, even towards his enemies. But by then, it was the person he was fighting shot him back. There's a Bible verse that says, "He who lives by the sword dies by the sword," and Wolfwood spent the majority of his life fighting and shedding blood. And as I said before, the character contrasts come in, and you have Vash the Stampede, who's revealed to be a living weapon, and yet he refuses to kill anybody. And then you have Wolfwood, who is a professing priest who sees no problem with killing anybody who poses a threat to innocent people.
It's actually interesting that you bring up that he's carrying so much weight with the cross and that. I suppose like in some ways in that the cross would be sort of also be considered sort of symbolism in that.
Yeah.
Like that's like a very very famous quote from Cowboy Bebop in that.
It's gonna carry that weight.
Carry that weight.
Yeah.
So like it's almost like the cross is a symbolism of how much weight in that of almost how much guilt and sacrifice in that he had that he sort of done in that to choose the path that he went down in that, compared to sort of Ash in that, who only carries around a revolver in that with bees in that, and is sort of the very very definition of like livelihood and it's like I don't know, like is there like any is there anything in that in terms of like Christianity when it comes to carrying a cross as a symbol of like carrying sort of weight of like guilt or burden in your life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a heavy, lack of a better term, heavy theme throughout this show, and as well as in our personal lives, because all of us have done something wrong and or had some wrong inflicted to us, and whether it be guilt or shame or fear, doubt, that kind of thing, you carry those burdens, and you have to bear that burden for the rest of your life, and you have to endure, and you have to forgive, and you have to love the people who wronged you, and this is a very overtly Christian series, because the main creator, Naito, as far as I'm aware, is a converted Catholic, one of a very few over at Japan. He hasn't really spoken up about it as much, but from what I've heard, he did convert, and it's played a prominent role throughout the series. You'll see a lot of Christian iconography, obviously the most overt being Wolfwood's cross, but you also see it throughout the series in regards to the themes and themes of play. I mean, you see it in the way Vash acts out, his optimistic view of love and peace, even towards his enemies. You see it with Wolfwood's his profession and the conflict between Vash and Wolfwood. You'll see the consequences of certain actions, and then the symbolism of, more spoilers, Vash's brother Knives, fallen from a state of grace and absolutely detesting humanity. You can see it in the plant beings that empower people's power substances, who actually turn out to be these weird alien woman beings that kind of resemble angels. And Vash is the only one who can communicate with them, because Vash and his brother were actually born from a plant from some strange miraculous birthing process of unknown explanation.
Yeah, it actually considering the whole origins of how they get to the planet and that, and also the fact that that the ship that they were carrying that was carrying like all the humans on Earth and that. I suppose in some ways in that it again like very sort of hits heavy symbolism in that towards sort of the sort of like
The Ark.
The arc in that, carrying like the humans to another place, or
Noah's Ark. Yeah.
hopefully more proper place.
Yeah.
And I suppose in some ways in that suppose sort of Bash could also be seen like as almost like like a sort of a Jesus or a God.
Christ figure. A Christ figure.
And Knives says, well, I mean, I know I'm not
as well informed
as informed with Christianity in that, but basically, like sort of good bad yin and yang in that, and sort of Knives can be considered, like a sort of a devilish character.
Yeah. Often with stories of this capacity, there's inevitably going to be some kind of Christ figure or someone with Christ-like traits, inevitably at some point in the story. I mean, that's just the way symbolism goes. It's inevitable. You're going to find it somewhere, someplace. And so, for this story, Vash is the Christ figure of the story. He practices love and peace even towards his enemies. He's going through the wilderness, the desert planet. And he eventually carries the cross. In the last episode, he actually takes Wolfwood's cross as additional backup and carries it with him for his final fight. And I suppose even the title of the series, Try, I think the Trigun in question is referring to Vash himself, if I'm not mistaken, because he's actually got 3 guns. Like, he's got his revolver gun. He's got one arm, which is basically an arm that can revolve back into a sort of blaster kind of gun. And then, of course, there's that infamous, famous angel cannon thing that is so powerful it can blast a hole in the moon nearby. So that's 1, 2, 3, although I think there was this weird, strange mechanic where the revolver gun kind of turns into the angel gun. I don't exactly know how that works, but it's still 3 functioning... 3 types of guns, 3 types of guns for one, It
is quite actually the terrifying prospect of like particularly the first time you actually see the cannon actually using that, and you see like sort of the fear and sort of Bash's voice in that, like the fact that he like the fact that this is the second time this has happened, that he knows how much damage it's capable of in that.
Yeah.
And the fact, the panic that you hear in his voice in that is just sort of terrifying in that the fact that, he knows that he's got this device in that that is a part of him, that, and he has no control over it.
Aye.
But he knows that at some point it's going to go off in that,
Aye.
And sort of like inflict and has a possibility of inflicting so much damage to the world that he's in that.
Yeah.
That the only sort of solution that I could think of in that was just to fire it in the air and hope for the best.
Aye.
It's like it's like it's almost like the equivalent of like if you imagine that if you're but could you imagine like sort of being such an individual in that, and no one, it's just,
man, I mean, that is quite the intense thing to take into consideration. I was trying to say before, like, the Trigun would probably represent the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, tri in one. So that would represent the 3 functioning guns with that Stampede. Certainly the angel arm would probably be symbolic of Sodom and Gomorrah, referring to the angels that blew up Sodom and Gomorrah after all the wrong that was done upon Abraham's family, as they were trying to get Abraham's family out of the cities before the angels blew up Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brim and flintstone. And it was the explosion that was so intense that one of the family members actually looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. The angel cannon is a very deadly weapon, and Vash is very much afraid of it. Again, brilliant performance from Johnny on Bosch. There is that destructive capacity, and Vash has to try to keep it under control. And as you go along throughout the series, it gets to take a serious turn. You realise that Vash can be legit goofball at times, but at the same time, most of his goofball antics are mainly a facade to hide the burdens that he's been carrying. He actually has a lot of burden, and I guess this is another Christian theme. It's the fact that Jesus said, if the world hates you, know that it hated me first. And basically, Vash is the Christ figure in the fact that he's the innocent victim. He's the hero, and people put the blame on him even though he's done nothing wrong. As far back as when people migrated to the planets, it was his brother Knives that tried to sabotage humanity after Knives was learning about the nature of the plants and the capacity for humans to be outright jerks at times, so he thought, why not just kill them all and then only the plants will remain? And so Vash had to adapt to Knives' antics over time, and he managed to get some humans to help him raise him up, even give him the red coat. As Vash went out to the planet, he gained the reputation that he did just by trying to help others. People put the blame on Vash as a scapegoat, and because Vash and Knives are practically immortal as far as we're aware, we did see them get birth and grow up, but as far as the story's concerned, they're permanently in their, mid-20s or so?
Yeah, it seems to be the case, yeah. I've only actually seen the original series in that, but Stampede, is that supposed to be a remake of Trigun series, or is that meant to be a sequel?
It's a reimagined prequel in that it retells the events of probably the first half of the Trigun story up until the events of Trigun Maximum, where Vash goes into hiding and then gets found by Wolfwood again, and so on and so forth. It tells the retelling of the first half of that, as well as the prequel, only this adaptation doesn't leave the backstory and mystery. It actually gets more straight to the point in regards to the backstory and explores it a little bit more than the 90s series. I guess both series have the respective strengths of storytelling, and what you prefer is mainly, and which version is better is mainly down to what kind of storytelling you prefer personally. With the 90s adaptation, it's more of a comedic adventure kind of thing, with an emphasis on rock music. the main theme is brilliant, by the way. Over time, you realize little hints and clues. Like I remember this one episode that grabbed me into the mystery of it all was when they were trying to deal with this one plant problem, and this woman says, "I remember when I was a child." We get a flashback of this woman as a child, but Vash is exactly the same. And you just think, wait, he hasn't aged at all? What's going on there? And then by the climax of the episode, Vash seems to openly embrace the energy source as if it was some kind of living being. So you get all this insight and mystery thinking, okay, what is he? What's going on? Then it's revealed later, oh, these power sources are actually living creatures. Oh, he was birthed from that. Oh, he's practically immortal. Right.
Yeah. There's actually, considering the actual character himself in that there's actually kind of almost kind of like limitless potential in that in terms of storylines in that, because I mean we are talking about a character that, as far as we're aware in that, doesn't age in that. So like for all we know in that, you can make like any story within the sort of timeline in that, because like I always thought it'd be quite cool to have like a sort of like have like an anime in that of the Trigun series, which is like a sequel in that follows Vash like many years into the future in that. And you get to see like how much has sort of changed up the world in that since the original series.
That's a really creative premise. So you can see it gradually getting better and better over time, given the tone of the end of the series. That's an interesting premise. I'd love to see that, actually. I suppose a lot of these stories are implied as such, because part of the burden of being Vash the Stampede being practically immortal, much like Highlander with "Who Wants to Live Forever," Vash has to see people age and die.
Yeah.
And he's also seen people die due to the hands of evil people, and he's tried to stop. So basically, when it comes to Christianity, the Christians who actually abide by the original context of Scripture because they want to live moral lifestyles, they want to self-improve, they want to endure, they want to improve over life challenges, and over time, hopefully they'll realize it's relational more so than about law. And there's another prospect about the series, but those kind of Christians who live consistently also often get hated because that kind of lifestyle implies responsibility, and a lot of people don't like that kind of responsibility in their lives. Another theme in this show is grace versus law. And this is something that a lot of people don't even know about, but this is best personified within the conflict between Vash the Stampede and Wolfwood. So Vash represents grace, Wolfwood represents law. So in scriptures, obviously you need to keep the law in order to be a good person, like, obviously. But the scripture makes it quite clear that the problem with that is that none of us are good, because none of us can perfectly fulfill the law, so all of us are condemned. The Bible describes these scribes and these Pharisees who uphold the law. They get all the sacrifices right, they present themselves as pure, but then Jesus Christ describes them as whitewashed tombs with dead bones inside. Why? Because they were fixated on themselves to the point of self-righteousness, depending on themselves so much, to the point where they were filled with pride. But the problem is, if you're filled with that much pride in your own works, then you don't, in your mind, you'll think you don't need a savior. You're perfect, just as you are. But that makes you a selfish, self-righteous prick, basically, with no love and compassion for others. And Jesus was criticizing the Pharisees of his time by saying, you fixate so much on yourselves, but you're not actually applying your discipline to helping other people around you. Instead, you climb up the ladder only to slam the door on them before they actually get a chance to actually get up. So Jesus was actually compassionate to the sinners, the prostitutes, the lepers, and so on and so forth. But he was very scolding towards the Pharisees of all people. So this is where grace comes in. So Vash represents grace, the fact that he gives out love even to his worst enemies. And often the people he will often get into argumentation the most would be Wolfwood. So with Wolfwood's mindset is that any bad guy needs to die. And it's an understandable mindset with Wolfwood because he's trying to protect people. And usually the best shortcut to protect people is bang, kill them off. But Vash says there's a way we can reconcile. It's a hard path, as indicated by all the hits he's taken. But in Vash's mind, it's worthwhile because people can change. And interestingly, in Trigun Stampede, we actually see some enemies that were just straightforward enemies, and here actually give reconciliation a chance in this adaptation. So it's quite interesting how Vash sees that potential for people to change for the better if they're given a chance. That's what grace does. It actually, it doesn't hide your wrongdoing. It's not really ashamed of it. It just acknowledges it and offers an invitation to self-improve.
It's actually quite interesting that sort of bring that up, and that, like, I particularly remember the scene of that said episode that I was talking about earlier in that, where after a scene in that, after a previous episode in that, where Wolfwood shot a kid in that was like threatening Bash and others at gunpoint in that.
That's right.
Where, like, after the said conflict in that, Millie sort of comes by Wolfwood's place in that to sort of comfort him. And
yeah.
He sort of like gets frustrated at her and that by not acknowledging what just happened. She's just sort of acting like almost nothing's like happened in that, and he gets really angry that he's not acknowledging what happened in that, and Millie herself in that, she doesn't even know what to make of it in that, and I quite like how they don't acknowledge, whether whether either Vash was right or Wolfwood was right for what
Yeah.
happened in that. It was just that it's just what you make of it, and that.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
didn't even have an opinion about it because she was just traumatized about what just happened. But like at the same time in that, she wasn't necessarily blaming Wolfwood for his actions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a completely understandable situation. I mean, that's what makes this series so interesting, actually, is that you'd think that the series would just automatically go by Vash's solution all the time, but there's a few challenges that can come from Vash's radical, optimistic pacifism. In Badlands Rumble, particularly, which is sort of kind of a B-plot kind of thing going on, Vash spares the life of a criminal who goes on to do much more damage, and Vash is called out on this. Like, if this criminal wasn't alive, then none of the events of this particular movie would happen. So Vash is challenged on that, but Vash still manages to find a way to make up for that regardless.
Yeah, and it's actually another interesting point to make really in that, because like a lot of like Vash's morals in that is almost quite similar to Batman's.
Yes.
And the fact that Batman refuses to kill, but what you're saying there in that, it almost exactly parallels like sort of Batman's like sort of Batman in his own world in that, because he ends up like capturing like Gotham's most dangerous criminals, like men that have killed countless individuals in that and would continue to do others in that, but yet he refuses to kill them, but yet at the same time these same said individuals break out of Arkham Asylum or other confinements in that and go on to kill many others in that. So it's actually so almost exactly the situation that happens in the film.
Aye. It's interesting you bring that up. In terms of superheroes, Naita was, if I'm not mistaken, found inspiration from Spider-Man when it comes to making the manga series for Trigun. So there's that to take into consideration. And people have made the case that, Spider-Man's the Marvel equivalent of Batman because he's also got a vast villain rogues gallery and he also refuses to kill anybody depending on which version you're talking about. So I guess there is that to take into consideration. Another aspect of the series, Vash gets a lot of challenges, and basically, the more the series goes on, the more that his ideology is challenged on a personal basis. His brother Knives, who's in charge of this group, gradually shifts his dynamic from just sending bad guys out to do chaos to just challenging Vash personally, push him, and see at what point does he break, basically. It's really interesting seeing the conflict play out as to how far he's willing to go to protect others. And, we don't see too much of Knives personally, apart from what we see in flashbacks, especially with his relationship to his mother figure, Rem. And how that plays into humanity. If you want to see more about the dynamic between Vash and Knives, I would recommend you watch Trigun Stampede, because this adaptation actually delves much more into the relationship between Vash and Knives, whereas this adaptation is more about the adventures that Vash has along the way, which is more true to the manga series. And now, interestingly enough, the 90 series is somewhat rushed as an adaptation because, if I'm not mistaken, at the time, Naita was trying to work on Trigun Maximum. He did finish the original Trigun series, which is it's a series of goofy adventures up until he sees his brother again and then causes the Angel Arm explosion, which causes him to go into hiding. The first volume of Trigun Maximum is mostly faithful to what happens here. Vash goes into hiding, he finds himself a girlfriend, until Wolfwood comes along, finds him again, recovers him by just slapping him awake. And then Vash goes like... there's a lot of wild stuff that happens The Maximum series continues on the conflict between Vash and Knives, and Wolfwood dies, although the death scene itself is quite different from the manga. Basically, what we see in the 90 series is pretty much a shortened and rushed version of what happens in Maximum. If you want a few more elements that are more truthful to the manga, I mean, Trigun Stampede has a few things going on, albeit with different character designs and a few different aesthetics and stuff like that. This series doesn't acknowledge the fact that Wolfwood can actually heal Wolverine style from bleeding injuries due to the intense experimentation he's gone under, whereas this series acknowledges that. And interestingly, Badlands Rumble actually depicts the characters in their Trigun Maximum accurate outfits. There's a fun bit of trivia for you. What else is there to say about the series? There's I suppose there's other interesting things to know about the series, like the character design and the posing is pretty bold, although the action in the manga series is a little bit hard to decipher due to the way the panels are sort of closed in and you don't really know much what's going on, but you get more of a clear sight of what's going on with the action here. And the posing is strong, the character designs are quite strong.
I do have to object to one thing that particularly with Stampede, like in terms of design that, and I know many people have brought up in that, but that hairstyle. No. That's the hairstyle.
That's the hairstyle!
I just can't get over the hairstyle. Just to me, it feels it's like it's trying to be try too hard to modernize fashion.
I get what you mean. Although thankfully, I can affirm you, by the last episode of Trigun Stampede, through a series of events, he actually does get the spiky hair again.
So it's kind of like sort of preluding that to like.
Yeah, I agree. Like the spiky hair, like that is his design. In fact, the fact that he's named Vash, the name Vash literally means crowd. You need the spiky hair to look like a crowd to justify the character design. Although I get what they were trying to go with Trigun Stampede. They were trying to make him start in a sort of a lower point, but then by the end of the last episode of Trigun Stampede, he actually does get the spiky hair after he undergoes this transformation, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, he goes into hiding. I think they're going to bring back the spiky hair for Trigun STARGAZE. They have to. Yeah. They have to.
In some ways, that actually kind of parallels sort of the Yakuza 0. Like, I don't know.
I have yet to play that game, but you have kindly given that to me. I will intend to play that at some point.
Yeah.
What about Yakuza 0?
But yeah, like at the sort of like during throughout the game that you see sort of Kiro wearing this sort of like he's sort of like white sort of pinstripe suit and jacket and that with an orange shirt and that, but like long time fans of the games and that know that he wears the full grey suit jacket, jacket and trousers with the crimson red shirt. That's his look. But he starts off with this like white pinstripe and orange shirt, and admittedly he makes it work in that. But that's what he starts off with in that, and then at the very end of the game in that, you see him adorn the famous grey suit and the red shirt and that, just like at the end of Stampede.
Yeah. I see what you're getting at. So as great as the series is, I do have a few critiques, at least as far as the 90s adaptation that we're mainly talking about here for now. There are some moments where, I get it. It was a animated show of the 90s. It's not going to have as big a budget as like the Studio Ghibli movies, and they're tight for time, as I've learned about Nightgown, about the process of how he was making the manga. I get it, but at the same time, you'll notice some particularly off-putting details, like when there's these still shots of like vast crowds, but they're not moving, or other scenes where you think characters should be moving, but they're just completely still. That could be a wee bit distracting, so some aspects of the animation like that are somewhat dated, but at the same time, there's other moments where the animation can get particularly action-packed, or particularly hilarious. There's this one particular pose of Vash that has me laughing every time I see it. It's this one where he's playing with a ball with the kids, but the way he's doing it, he's got his tongue extended out, and he's got this weird crocodile mouth, and his tongue is holding the ball. He's posed like...
That part.
That's brilliant stuff.
Yeah, like one sort of like scene in particular. I'm not sure if I'd say it's sort of badly animated or not, but was when like sort of like Vash uses not Millie. What was the other girl's name? Merle. He sort of uses her as like a human shield and that for like toy dart guns and that, and he says a quote to like the kids and that, and then he ends up laughing in that, and like whilst he's laughing, we cut down to Merle and that, like just peppered with like these toy darts and that, and she's like laughing insanely with two guns in her hand and that, just going ha 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 ha, and Millie's like, no, don't do it, it's not worth it.
Oh man. There's other moments there's other brilliant moments we could mention, and the series has an amazing final fight, and there's this particularly iconic picture for the series standards where Vash and his brother Knives have each other at gunpoint, yet they also got their hands on each other like that. There's some brilliant stuff going on like that, and another critique from the show is that the show kind of just ends after the fight. I mean, obviously during the end credit sequence, you'll get this last moment where the town manages to find a burst of water supply, and Vash comes home with his brother on his back with a happy face. But it seems just somewhat abrupt, but I mean, it still ends on a satisfying note. It's interesting how the mystery built up over time, although I would say that in regards to pacing and in regards to animation quality and stuff like that, I'd say Cowboy Bebop did it way better, and that's got a lot of similarities with Trigun. Namely, the fact that they're both very Western-oriented in their presentation, and Cowboy Bebop and Trigun have two of the best English dubs I've heard from anime.
Oh yeah. Another point in terms of like the art style and that, I actually absolutely love the entire sort of world in that sort of Trigun and that, like particularly the environments and that. I like how all the buildings and that are like sort of like very are like sort of white stone and that, with like a nice sort of like clear sort of blue, sort of almost navy blue sort of sky in that. Like whenever actually see that and that always makes me think of like places like in Athens and Greece and that. With all those like residential houses and that, which are like just beautiful, sort of white stone houses. And combined with the navy blue, like sort of like sky and that is just beautiful.
Oh man, have you been there actually?
No, but I'd love to go there.
I'd love to go there too, honestly. Are there any closing thoughts in regards to the 90s adaptation of Trigun?
I suppose there is one in that, and it comes to actually the design of the sort of revolver itself and that, like.
Oh yeah.
Because like it's quite unique that like someone that kind of got knowledge of firearms and that, it's actually quite unique that the barrel itself and that is actually on the bottom portion of the gun and that, rather than on the top and that. And there's actually real life parallels believe it or not.
Oh, really?
There's actually an Italian revolver in that, which I believe was called the Matilda.
All right.
And there's actually a real world benefit.
So what are the benefits of having the gun be at the bottom bit of the pistol as Vash's gun is?
The bar at the bottom of that, yes. Because like with handy added weight on the top of the gun and that, it reduces the gun sort of like the recoil going vertical.
Oh.
So like when a gun fires in that, you know it naturally goes up like that.
That's right.
And having a bit of weight on the top of it sort of prevents the gun from climbing as sort of steeply in that.
Ah, right. That actually makes a lot of sense. No wonder he's a master marksman.
But I think like I don't think that was the intentions with the creator of the show and that. I think it said in interviews that he just kind of wanted to sort of he wanted to put the bar on the bottom in that because it was quite a unique look in that.
Aye, interesting insight.
And also not to mention that it's a break action as well, which is always cool to see.
Yeah. Aye.
Which is when of course when you break the bar open like this.
Oh yeah.
And all the spent casings come falling out.
Yes. Yeah, that happens quite frequently throughout the show. Yes. That's interesting fact. I didn't know that it worked like that. I always thought that having at the bottom of the barrel would have done something quite quirky with your aiming or something. But
yeah. Well, I mean, it didn't really catch on for one thing, it makes the gun much more needlessly complicated, and it also makes it more expensive. So it didn't really catch on that much, and also the benefits didn't really. There wasn't really that much benefit to in terms of recoil. So in practice, in theory, that it's good in that. In practice, not so much. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about Trigun. So.
Alright. If there's anything you'd like to say about the 90s adaptation of Trigun, or indeed its source material, let us know in the comments down below, and hopefully at some point in the future we could talk about even more Trigun media, or indeed at some point in Hello Retro try out Gungrave, which was also created by Yasuhiro Naito, and there's an entire gaming franchise based on this, by the way.
And you never know, it might even cover PlayStation 4 as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And we'll probably cover more anime as well. There's quite a bit of anime to talk about. But in the meantime, we're talking about Trigun. And thank you all so much for watching. Click subscribe. And we look forward to more anime content, don't we?
Yep. See you guys soon.
See ya.